You don't even need it. Right there.
We'll do a pre-meeting for clocks next time, just to test the visibility. Yeah. You know, this room has a little funny way about glares, unfortunately. Thank you, Rob.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the pre-meeting as we have a discussion around affordable housing. Mr. Williams, you are going to lead us through this discussion, and I look forward to what you're bringing to the table, what our guests are bringing to the table as we figure out what's in the best interest of Huntersville around affordable housing.
Madam Mayor, as part of the retreat topics, I think we're probably come down the home stretch of the pre-meetings to check off the remaining retreat topics that we have, but one of those was affordable housing. And the previous board talked a lot about workforce housing, and typically workforce housing is a little higher on the AMI scale, the area median income scale, than affordable housing. Workforce typically is 80 to 120%. Affordable is more the 30 to 50 to 80%. And so there's a broad range there between the 30 to 120% area median income, and to sort of help guide this discussion and some of the things we're working on, some of the things we're looking at. We sent out some questions for the board, and just put those here on that slide again to remind you of those. Just kind of things we're looking at, we're looking for. These are the area median incomes for the Charlotte MSA, and these are for 2021, came out in July, so be curious to see how much that number goes up for 2022 later this summer. But 100% of area median income for a family of four will be $84,200. Family of four, 80% of that would be $67,350. So if that, 80% plus or minus, depending on if you're trying to trend higher like some communities do, or if you're trying to pick up some of the folks that might be at the lower levels that are your service workers and things like that. That's part of the reason we've invited Laura Belcher with Habitat here. But really, Habitat is our most active and willing partner in the affordable housing space. They work, I believe she mentioned earlier, 11 different municipalities. I do a lot of work with the city of Charlotte. City of Charlotte, they have an entire department dedicated to this topic, and do a lot of work, a lot of different things. We've been watching some of what they've been going through lately to try to, look at their own options for, we're helping people get into housing, but when people want to sell that house or move on, they're not capped on those opportunities. Just trying to see what's going on in the market so that we can adapt, update our rules and ordinances to be competitive, to meet what we know is a growing need in our community. Laura, if you wouldn't mind, I'll invite you up at this time. Laura Belcher is the president and CEO of Habitat at the Greater Charlotte region. They did the merger right about the time COVID hit, so I think she was planning to come and give a much more detailed presentation 2 years ago at this time. Then we got derailed by COVID to come and tell you about the capacity and the ability to serve that they bring. They have a broader range of services than the previous Habitat we had that was dedicated to our area. We passed out some information for you before tonight's meeting. So I'll jump in over and let Laura jump in and introduce herself, and certainly encourage you to ask her any questions as you guys are working through this.
Thank you, Bobby, and Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to come spend some time with you tonight. What I wanted to do is just kind of give you a quick update on some of the things that Habitat Charlotte Region is doing to make sure that you're familiar with our breadth of programming and services, and then would welcome questions to make sure that we're addressing the things that you're most interested in and things that are going on. So Habitat Charlotte Region, as Bobby had indicated, is the product of a merger. We consummated a merger with Our Towns Habitat, which was serving North Mecklenburg and Iredell County. We consummated that March 1st of 2020, right before kind of the world changed in mid-March. So we serve now really this 2-county area. We will, be able to build houses this year. About 70, we'll put about 70 families into new houses, and we'll repair about 200 houses in this upcoming year. We're excited to continue our relationship with Huntersville. In the past fiscal year, we've done 3 critical home repair projects. We've got 2 that are approved already for the upcoming fiscal year, and anticipate that we might be able to do more. And we're excited that we're starting 2 new home builds probably in the next 90 days in Huntersville. And so we'll be able to bring affordable home ownership to the residents. So really, when I think about what we're doing, we're really working on 3 primary programming activities, right? So we are looking at how to add new units and be able to provide affordable housing to families in the AMI of 30% to 80%. So we're really looking at that range. That means that's a homeowner that is working usually in a services type of industry. Either, could be a teacher, a first responder, could be somebody, if you go to the airport and get on a shuttle bus, could be the person that's driving the shuttle bus, right? So good jobs, just lower wage positions, right? And so we want to have the opportunity for affordable home ownership. So that's kind of what we're known for most is the stick builds and everything. We are diversifying some of our product to make sure that we match the neighborhoods and match what our communities need. So we do single family detached homes. We also do single family attached. So we can do a 2-story stacked townhome. We can do duplexes and tris and quads in order to make sure that we've got the right housing mix for the neighborhoods that we're building in. In addition to new home and home ownership opportunities, we're very committed to our critical home repair program. And what we're trying to do there is really preserve housing and use that as an anti-displacement tool. That is primarily for owner-occupied seniors that have deferred maintenance on their home. They're usually in the 60% or lower AMI and are living in substandard conditions. Well, we'll come in and do a holistic review of the house. We'll look at lead and asbestos needs as appropriate, but then we're looking at roofing and flooring and foundation. We're looking at electrical. We're looking at the quality of the house and how we can return it to a safe and decent place to live. On average, those projects right now are running about $33,000, $34,000. That's a grant program. And so we are using a variety of different funding sources for that. Some of that is through CDBG dollars. We're using some ERP dollars through the state. We also are using some private dollars, and so we're able to kind of partner all of that up to fund those projects. And we are seeing just an immense amount of growth in critical home repair and the needs across our region. And then the other thing that we're doing from a programmatic standpoint to assist in removing barriers to home ownership is financial literacy work. So we've got a 3-week home ownership readiness program that we do called Money Matters. And that can be for folks that aren't necessarily going to buy a Habitat house, but are trying to look at what is home ownership, affordable home ownership for them. What does that look like? What would it take to be home buyer ready? And so we're increasing the volume of access to those classes so that folks can look at that. And when they graduate from that, they know, are they ready to buy a house now? Or in 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years? What would it take to be home buyer ready? And what we really are committed to is removing those barriers to home ownership. We know that too many residents across the region are not buying homes, not able to access homes, and therefore are not being able to generate the generational wealth that we want to see happen in order to provide the stability for families so they can stay in the community and do that for generations. So that was a quick overview of some of what we're doing, and so what I'd really like to be able to do is hear where some of the questions or concerns or thoughts are, and we can address it from there.
Sorry about that. So, love everything that you guys do with Habitat, great organization. One of the things on the home repair, I had a couple of specific questions, because I was trying to work with specifically one of our communities in Huntersville, and there was a little bit of pushback that there was fear around, and hopefully this will make sense. Do homeowners in any way need to sign over their deed or any other equity instrument to receive this assistance?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that we approach that, and this is a little bit different than our predecessor, so post-merger, it's a little bit of a different structure. So the way that we approach that is at the completion, at the time of services, we ask for a deed restriction. It's a 5-year deed restriction, so it's not a lien on the home. You're not signing over the home in any way, shape, or form, but it's a deed restriction that gives Habitat the opportunity to repurchase the home for the first 5 years if the home needed to be transferred. If it needs to transfer to an heir, there's no hesitation in transfer to heirs, but if somebody needs to sell, wants to move on or whatever, what we ask for is a first right of purchase of that home so that we can buy it back and we could then resell it to an income qualified family.
Okay, and when you do purchase it back, is it at a market rate, and would they receive any of the equity?
Yes, yeah, so actually that, both for our critical home repairs and for our, if we were to buy back an existing Habitat home, right? Either one of those, we would look at paying a fair market value for those homes. So we look at what the value of the home is. We might look at whether or not, there's any additional work that needs to be done or whatnot, but we will pay a fair market value for that home. And then we'll income qualify the next family.
Okay, and my last question, I promise, is I know your model on people, when you build a brand new house for people, it's typically related to sweat equity of sorts, that they have to put in so many hours before they qualify. Is for the people who are getting fixed, and I'm sorry, fix is kind of where my focus is right now. Do they have any type of sweat equity model? Is there any post-fix obligation that they have to have?
Yeah, so for both of our programs, what we have is community investment hours, right? And so for new home construction, those family partners will invest some time either on the job site, learning about the construction of their home, or in the community. For our critical home repair, the average age is closer to 70 years old, and so we don't usually put them on a roof or something to that effect. But we do have community engagement hours. Usually, they are already engaged in the community, but if they're not, we'll help them work with that. So they might be doing hours with us, or they might be doing hours reading at the library, or different things like that. Because it's a grant program and the magnitude of the investment, that's their way of participating without having to pay back that $34,000.
Gotcha. And yeah, I think Jimmy Carter's still 80-some, and he can wield a hammer, so it's all good. But I thank you for the answer.
We'll let him do whatever he wants.
Commissioner Partee.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for the presentation, and Habitat does a fantastic job in all the communities here. Can you just walk us through how do you acquire lots? How do you become aware of the lots? And where does the funding come from as far as the lots? I understand that there are 2 lots that you previously purchased on Venus Lane off of Hambright. And just walk us through that if you can.
Yeah, so our land comes from a variety of different opportunities, right? So in some cases, land is acquired in partnership from municipalities, right? So we're working with our partners across the region to see if there's excess land. In fact, the land that we're going to be building on in the next 90 days are parcels that were transferred to us from the town. So thank you for that. We do also then acquire. Sometimes we receive donated land from private sources. So somebody might have excess land and they want to donate it. And then the third is we do acquire land, right? And so we'll go out and we'll talk to owners either that are already on the market or not, and we will acquire that land. And we'll negotiate the best and lowest price that we can to acquire that land. We can sometimes acquire land and utilize different funding streams to help with the purchase price of that land. And so we look at doing that as well.
Great. If I wanted to donate a parcel of land, is that tax deductible on my end to Habitat?
Likely, but I can't give tax advice.
Okay, all right, I'll check my accountant, thank you. Last question. The Money Matters program.
Yeah.
does that also include first-time homeowners loans, where a homeowner for the first time can acquire, or can get a certain down payment on that particular home? And what other programs do you have that will instruct new homeowners how to maintain that particular land so that the upkeep isn't comparable to the surrounding homeowners there also?
Yeah, good question. So we have two different financial literacy programs. The one that I mentioned, Money Matters, is really open to anybody that would be interested in home buying. And we've got a wait list. There's a high demand for that, which is great. When folks get through that program, we don't provide the financing, but we give them the information and the ability to go find their financing. Some of those graduates apply for Habitat homes and then kind of come through the Habitat process. If someone is approved into the Habitat process for a new Habitat home, they income qualify, they meet the other guidelines, then they will go through a more extensive home buyer readiness program. And so that is a 14-week, where the Money Matters is a 3-week kind of home buyer readiness to kind of know what it would take. When someone comes into the Habitat program, they'll go through another 14 weeks that is a mix of additional financial literacy, planning, budgeting, planning for the future, college tuition, all of those things in addition to home buyer, and we'll have some home maintenance. And so we'll talk about how to maintain a home, how to be a good neighbor, how to work within the community. If there's a neighborhood association, we'll try and introduce the new residents to the neighborhood association. So it's a really holistic training program that our home buyers go through. So kind of two different paths. Some of the Money Matters graduates kind of move on and get their own financing, and some turn around and come and apply to Habitat and go through the program.
If you don't know, it's okay, but I wondered if you knew how many parcels you owned here in Huntersville, or Habitat owns?
I'm looking to my colleague to see, and I may not know off the top of my head. One more in Norman Park. All right, so one more in Norman Park, 4 under contract, but we are looking at other land as well.
Are the 4 in Pottstown, do you know, or no? There's 2 over there. My next question was, if you had any undeveloped land, what was stopping you from developing it, or were there any barriers that you found?
So I think what we're trying to do is look at how to best serve the community. So we're inviting applicants. So looking for applicants that want to apply. We're making sure that we can build efficiently and effectively. So we're going to do the 2 that we're going to start in the next 90 days are very close to each other. And so there's efficiency in building for those. So we like, when we've got multiple lots, we like to try and do those, in combination with each other. It's just a more efficient building plan. So we want to make sure we identify the right families and then can continue to build. And our hope is to be able to acquire more land so we can do more building in Huntersville.
I was going to jump in on that one too.
Please.
She mentioned Norman Park. We'd previously worked with Habitat in Norman Park. Was an old 50s approved subdivision. So the streets were platted, they were never built. So some of the challenge over there is you've got the platted streets that have never been built. They need water and sewer, they need asphalt. So those, I would say, would be some barriers to your future development over there. We're looking at opportunities with CDBG in the future to try to take care of some of that infrastructure. Also looking at potential lot acquisition partners that we could work with over there. But that is definitely, I would say, is a barrier for them right now.
That was one of my questions, because I was under the impression that some of the ones over here on the east side had similar, where there was no road to the properties.
There is an opportunity over here on the east side. We've tried to talk with Mecklenburg County and some other folks about it, and I will say talks are in the works.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I guess hopeful aspirations, but very similar situation. And honestly, years ago in Norman Park, I think some of those parcels, it's one of those deals where you've got to buy 2 parcels to have 1 buildable lot. Years ago, we did a text amendment so folks could combine 3 parcels and get 2 75-foot lots out of those 3 50-foot parcels. But I think I was told the other day that those parcels, some of those, the buildable lots are going from anywhere from $45,000 to $75,000 just for the land now. You used to be able to buy them for $1,800 a parcel. So the speculation is pretty crazy right now.
Commissioner Boone?
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. I have two questions. The deed restriction program, is that working pretty well for you?
Yeah, that works really well. I mean, the vast majority of our critical home repair recipients stay in their house longer than 5 years and the deed restriction expires. Most of the folks that we're working with have been in their home for a long time and want to stay in their home, and that's our goal too. We want people to age in place.
Second question is, how would a civic organization tie in with Habitat if they wanted to get involved?
There's a couple of different ways. We have an extensive volunteer opportunities for our new home construction, and so there's opportunities to volunteer. There's opportunities to assist in the financial literacy, working with families. So there's opportunities to do a variety of different things. So it really depends on, we have the opportunity to kind of structure that based on the civic organization. So
Do we
can
contact you?
you can. I think my contact information is in your binder, so happy to have you contact me, and we'll connect you with the right part of the organization to utilize those resources.
Thank you.
We can't do anything without partnerships, so appreciate that.
Thank you very much, and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions? I do have a question. In regards to Habitat, do you consider yourself sitting in the affordable perspective, 30, 50, 80% AMI?
Yeah, absolutely. So with our new construction, we're primarily focusing on that 30 to 80%. And what we do is we build the houses and then we sell them to the homeowner, and we ensure that the housing cost is no greater than 30% of their household income. Right, so that's really the goal. The federal standard is that your housing cost should not be more than 30%. So what we do is we sell the home at its market value, and we ensure that they have a mortgage either through us or one of our banking partners that is affordable for their house. What we're seeing as property taxes rise and insurance costs rise, the pressure on that first mortgage, that's the place that's really kind of volatile. That's the place that you make up the difference, right? Is the taxes and the insurance and then the first mortgage, and you want those things to add up and not be more than 30% of the household. So we're making sure that we're right-sizing that. We subsidize the difference between the cost of the house and what the family can afford.
Okay, thank you. I guess for the board, I think one of the things that we need to have conversation around is the difference between affordable and workforce, and what blend, if there should be a blend, would the board like to see, if anything?
Mayor, I'll jump in on that note too. When Laura and I were chatting before, she mentioned the previous housing study that had been done by the EDC.
Yes.
It's my understanding they're working on updating
It's
that.
being updated, yes.
So I think this conversation, combined with the data we get from that, would hopefully give us some more direction.
And I do know the other piece, is, for our legislative agenda, we are looking to see about funding an affordable housing study for Huntersville specifically as well. So that should give us additional information and data that we can pull from in order to make some sound decisions.
So I didn't mean to jump in. It's just,
No.
but we know y'all want to
Please.
talk.
What are your thoughts? Commissioner Munger?
Sure, I'll just kind of throw it out there. I mean, obviously, a lot of the questions I had were related to home repair, so I think we have a couple of different communities that we could focus a lot on home repair, which would be possibly on the lower end of this income spectrum. And my thoughts are, if you do that, you repair existing homes and get those to a good standard of living, then for building new homes, perhaps more so focusing on workforce. But I'm entirely open. All of it's good, just a thought.
Right. I can't disagree. If we're able to work with Habitat and other entities to ensure that people can age in place and stay in their homes, I think that would be a huge win. Some of the questions that have been raised around critical home repair have been where the individual sits within the AMI thresholds. And if they are just over, let's say they're over the, what is the percent? 60%? Or 80%? So maybe they're just slightly over that, and so they would not necessarily qualify for the full lump sum. Is there an interest in this board to create a different layer to help fund that?
And again, I'll throw it out there. I think there's probably a substantial amount that fall under the 80% that need the home repair that we could quickly address right out the gate. And if we found that we fulfilled the obligation and took care of all of those, then looking at it beyond. But in my head, you're going to find a lot that are under the 80.
I'll share just anecdotally that we get a lot of applications for the critical home repair. When we look at kind of how they fall in the AMI, only about 9 or 10% of them are falling in that 60 to 80% AMI. So the vast majority, 90% of what we're serving and what's applying to us is 60% or below. That's where the greatest need is. That's where folks have struggled with the deferred maintenance the most.
And that makes sense. Commissioner Kovacs?
I would definitely like to see not just the home repair, but some options for home purchase in the affordable housing range, but I also feel workforce housing is appropriate. So not just new houses built in for workforce, but for affordable housing as well.
So does this board want to kind of work with staff to formulate a plan to then bring back for additional conversation? Commissioner Barty?
So with us, will we have to create like a community development program or a department that will administer this, or do we work with Habitat in general?
I will say that's why we were so glad of the merger.
Yeah.
Habitat, they have I don't know, your staff might be as big as ours, I don't know. They have a wealth of experienced, trained staff that are very skilled with things like CDBG and home funds. I think we are looking at how we can use those programs better to maximize their benefit and sort of the nature of these questions. You know, these are sort of the things we're doing right now, working on the critical home repair, kind of as opportunities provide themselves for lot acquisition, new affordable housing development. We just want to make sure we're on the right track doing sort of the intent of what the board would like us to do. And then with CDBG, you know, the county, as it continues to grow, expand, you know, they're also running out of qualifying areas in the towns and in their ETJ. So that's going to make certain areas for area-wide benefit harder to qualify. So we have suggested at our last, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had our annual action plan public meeting for the county, and we suggested, you know, since we're having trouble and looking ahead, we're going to have trouble determining area-wide benefit, why don't we look at neighborhood-specific geographies, sort of like what Commissioner Munger was referencing, specific areas that may need services, specific areas that may have opportunities like a Norman Park, to try to define those areas where benefits could potentially be provided to qualifying beneficiaries. So more to come on that, but we're trying to see if we can be a little more targeted, and that would give us specific areas that we could hopefully get lists of potential projects, sidewalks, stormwater, home repair, new housing infill, to try to, as funds are available, apply them to those opportunities.
And I don't think we should forget, you know, doing that affordable housing study will really tell us quite a bit about where the gaps are, what's missing, what we have, and then how to potentially proceed moving forward.
And I think one thing you may see come from us as staff, you heard Laura mention the gap. If we're looking to something like the home funds, which the city of Charlotte administers, the home consortium, so they get a couple extra $100,000 every year for administering a regional county-wide consortium. We're hoping to tap some of those funds to help with down payment assistance, but they have a 25% local match. So they're looking for, you know, 2 houses, $60,000 for down payment assistance. That might be $15,000 that we're coming to see if the board is willing to spend for that purpose.
Commissioner Kidwell?
How much land do you need for one house?
guess that depends on what you're building, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, he was mentioning that within the Norman Park, we're able to kind of take those, 2 lots and make one, or 3 together and make 2 at 75 feet. So we can do that. It really depends on what the housing product that we're bringing to bear is, right? We can do a 1-story that takes a little bit of a bigger footprint. We can do a 2-story that has a smaller footprint. We can do duplexes and triplexes. So
We did see a really neat row of townhomes they've done recently in Mooresville as well.
Yeah.
Thinking about how those lots come together.
yeah, we did sixplex in Mooresville just recently.
And the reason I ask is this board, if I recall the discussions during the retreat, we're talking about affordable housing and workforce housing and looking at a balance. We talked about the county owns a lot of land up here. We used to own some land up here. We don't own as much as we used to. But the land is the key, because land's not cheap. And I doubt you're gonna get someone who owned the land out here. We got people who own a couple hundred acres out here to sell it, or give it away, so to speak. So, you're gonna go back to the county, and that's why I asked that question, is how much land do you need? Because that is, in my mind, where we start. How much land do we need? So this board needs to come up with, do you want 100 homes, 200 homes, a mix of affordable housing, workforce housing, and where is that land available? And how are we gonna approach the county about it, if you guys wanna do that? So we can work with them, go from there.
Sure. The city recently did a land RFP to look at best and highest use of some of their surplus land. Things like, where they had is it a fire station? Police station, sorry. They had a police station. They had excess land around that, and so they looked at what kind of housing could ring that. So there's different opportunities to be creative also on, where is there slivers of land around schools or around other municipal facilities that, that excess land maybe could be used to a higher and best purpose for housing.
Very good. Commissioner Partee?
Can you give me an idea, what is the ethnic breakdown of the homeowners that you build for?
So our approach is all based on income qualifications. In the last couple of years, our demographics are that of our new home buyers, 90% are families of color. And then in our critical home repair, it's a little bit less than that. And it varies community by community and across our footprint.
Any other questions? Any burning questions at the moment? Mr. Williams, is there anything else you'd like for us to consider?
Based on the discussion tonight, we'll continue to talk with the county about opportunities where there may be some county-owned land, or there may be opportunities for us to maybe partner to acquire land for purposes of affordable housing. We'll look again at land we might have available and see sort of what the board thinks there, and then we'll continue to pursue grant opportunities, as things are eligible to do and as funds are available. So, if you guys have other thoughts, and also our zoning code has a lot of flexibility in it for different lots, and if there are things you see or hear other communities doing to support inclusive zoning, we've been kind of taking a look behind the curtain at what others are doing, what things we can do from a policy angle to try to encourage that, and maybe that's all an outcome of that ultimate affordable housing study to take advantage of the tools we have in the toolbox, but we're trying to at least get ready for when all that happens.
Well, I do want to commend this board for thinking through this. I know that our community has gone through, as many communities in the region, a huge transition in regards to affordable housing and the need for. And while we've diversified our business sector quite a bit over the last 10 years, one of the areas that hasn't has been our housing market. And when I think of our kids who are graduating from college and looking to move home but can't afford to live in their hometown, that's a little disturbing to me, to say the least. We want to make sure that our kids can come home and live, work, and play in the community that they grew up in. So, and hopefully raise a family and continue to grow our community. So I commend this board for even taking up the topic, and hopefully what we'll see in the future is a solid, sound plan for workforce and affordable housing for our community.
And if you have questions, ideas, thoughts, observations, please, let us know. Let's continue this discussion. And certainly you'll see and hear more from Laura and the folks at Habitat in the future.
Thank you for your time and commitment. We're excited to continue the partnership with the town and continuing to work with staff.
Thank you.
And I think Jackie wanted a quick minute since we're not at 6 o'clock yet.
Okay. Good evening, Ms. Huffman.
Thank you. For those of you who've not met them, I'd like to introduce you to David Lucor. David Lucor is the manager of our electric systems now. Don Mitchell retired ballpark April 30th. David has more than 30 years of experience at another municipal power agency city. You're welcome to come up and speak, but I want you and the public to be able to put a name with a face related to who's managing our electric system right now.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Huntersville.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So are you working out of the Electricity site right here in Huntersville now? That's your office? Great. Does anybody have any questions?
I think there were some emails earlier today. Customers had questions about solar. When we have electric-specific questions, we're directing those straight to this David Lucor, our electric systems manager. So welcome, David. We're very happy to have you.
Yes, we are.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. All right, board, we have 10 minutes. We will adjourn and kick back off at 6 p.m. Thank you.